Hey, so today I'm going to be going through and creating an animation so you can see what my process is. So this one is sloth gardening. Basically, I'm going to have this really lazy sloth. The idea is that he'll be hanging onto a branch, watering these flowers so slowly that they die before he can go back to the beginning. That's the idea. So I've already created my scene here. I have some settings for so that it's 24 frames per second, which is pretty standard, and um, and it's a square. So if you could see this area here is square, and the idea is that this can now get exported and put into YouTube as a short. So I have taken some items from my library. I have a scene, my backyard scene. I use it all the time. I've also dropped in a flower. Let me remove the back end. I have this flower here. It's in a pot. I'm probably going to remove it. My idea is I'm thinking four of these flowers, and they'll be in various stages of dying as the sloth is watering them. So I'm going to animate one flower, and then I'm going to duplicate it four times um, as the sloth goes along. And so that's my idea. Right now, I don't have a background, so I'm going to put a background on there. So I usually use the drawing, which is the default drawing layer. I'm going to take this square, I'm going to draw, and I'm going to pick a blue that I have. That's way too blue. I want something a little bit, that's too pale. This one's good. Let's use that one. Okay, so now I've got, so to extend it, I do F5. And I usually extend it to 1,000. 1,000 is sort of my default. Sometimes I get a little lazy and do 500 or 200 like later on, especially if I know that it's not going to go the full amount, if I know that I'm going to be editing it. Okay, so next I want to take this flower and let's animate the flower. Oh, I need to be on the flower. And I have this. So originally this flower was growing. That's how I first animated this flower. And when I first started adding things to my library, I added them fully animated, which became a bit of a pain in the butt for me. This is one of my older drawings, but I still use it. I still like it. It's actually a lot in it. One thing I'm not really liking right now is a few things. First off, if I put on the thirds, it's going to shrink down here. I kind of want to make it a little bit taller because I don't like how this green is blending in. So maybe we'll do something more like that. This might mean that I'm going to have 3 instead of 4, which is no big deal. I was planning for 4, but now that I'm looking at the coloring, I don't really like how the coloring was working with my background. The other option is I could just change my background, but I think doing 3, you know what, it's less work. It's fine. So I'm going to have this sunflower in stages of dying. So this is going to be its alive stage. I'm still really not liking that background. Maybe I'll put let's try a different background. Let's see what else I have. I don't want a beach, not the earth, not a circus tent, not dock and water. You know what? I have a sunny day that's really plain. Let's try that. And it's very plain, but I think it'll work for this. I'm just going to plop it on to see. Yeah, that I think looks better. So I'm going to delete these. And in fact, I'm going to delete that square that I just created. I think this looks better. And in fact, I might be able to make this sunflower a little smaller. All right, I like it. Yeah, that is much better. So I'm going to have the sloth up here. The fun part is I don't have a sloth. So you're going to get to draw with me and see how I draw. So the sunflowers here, it's going to be in various, so the pot actually I deleted, but I'm just going to delete that layer. I didn't realize it was on its own layer. And so for the flower and stems, I think I'm going to free draw all of that. So we're going to get rid of it up to 60. I do want to be able to see. So what I'm going to do, let's see. I have it on different layers. I kind of want it on the same layer just for simplicity's sake. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take this. I'm going to copy. Whoops. Let's take all 3 of these layers. And the problem with doing this is sometimes it doesn't keep what's on top and what's below, but we can at least try it. And yep, that's what I was afraid of, that stem. Okay, we're just going to do this way. It's no big deal. So let's start with the stem. Actually, let me find my coloring first. So let me go and find what palette I'm going to be working with. So I want to keep the palette, the Houseplant Cemetery. Is that the right palette? No. This is the palette. Okay, cool. So I have my palette. You can see what I'm doing. And we're going to do a few different, luckily I have my outline here. So let's go for my stem. I'm going to draw it pretty straight, and then I might have just a little dip. I don't like that. All right. And this is still going to be green. Which green is it? And it looks like that green. All right, cool. There's my stem. So the next stem, let's just stick with the stem. I'm going to do I'm thinking 4 stages of the flower dying. And this one, I want almost, so I've been using this green. I want almost a brown green. So I'm going to take this color. I'm going to click the plus button. So what that's going to do is just going to duplicate that same color. Now, if I click on it, I can now click onto a darker, I want almost brown. I'm not seeing a brown. I wonder if I go this way. Yeah, more of a greenish brown. That's what I'm looking for. Okay, so I've got that color. And so let's paint that. And then we're going to go one more over. Hit my pencil tool, black. And I want this one basically dead. And I'm going to pick one of my browns here. All right, so that's the stem. Let's look at the leaves. So I've got perfectly green leaves there. I'm going to have them wilt just a little bit. So luckily I have with my onion tool, which is right here. If it doesn't give you enough, you can drag it. But since we're just looking at the next few frames, we should be good there. Let's draw it in. So I want it to kind of do this. All right. And I don't think that closed. So close it. The same here. And I will check the color. It's the same color. So let's use that. Put that in there. And now let's draw them pretty wilted. I'm going to use the same ugly green. And then finally, we're going to do dead. So they're just going to be Control Z if you make a mistake, or Command Z if you're on a Mac. You can also use the back and forward buttons up here. Oops, we want to use a brown, not that ugly green. All right, so there we go. So for the sunflower, that's a lot of work to redraw. So I'm just going to copy it and paste it. I might squish it down just a little bit. Make it a little sad. All right, and then here, do the same, squish it down a little bit. I could make some of these a little wilty, but I think with sunflower, I almost want to just change the color. I feel like a sunflower is one of those flowers that just kind of dries out. It doesn't really lose its shape like a rose would. And then finally, I'm going to take this same one and we're just going to make it brown. We'll move it down there. Actually, I want it even lower. I want it to be like here, like dead. I'm going to take a different brown. And color it in. All right, those are our stages. So to go through these frames, so we've got this frame. I'm pressing the period button. And then to go back is the comma. So period. So those are, I feel like that's pretty good. Are these drawn? I'm going to, so basically so we're on a 24 frames per second. We can see that right here. We're on 24 frames per second right now. So you got to think about usually I round up to just 25. It just makes it easier. If you're working on a team and you're being very specific, you want to be frame for frame. But for me, working alone, I tend to just work by myself. So this is going to be the cycle. And then, oh wait, that's not 25. So we'll do about there. And then to about 50. So these, delete that. And then F5. And I'm going to have that go to 75. So this is the cycle right now. And I don't have the full frame. And now that I think about it, I actually want it going the opposite direction because I want them dying. I don't want them. So what's an easy way to do that? Let's see. I'm going to do exactly what I just did, just opposite. So we'll take that. I'm going to copy those and move it there. Delete those. This is another reason why I wanted to keep it pretty simple, is this could get really messy if you're not super planned out, which I try and plan out, but I have a tendency to change. Again, another benefit of working on my own. If you're working with a team and multiple people, you definitely want to be planned out and know exactly what you're doing and where you're going. See, you can already tell that I have extra frames somewhere in here. So that's the alive one. That's the next. Okay. So I want to delete these. All right. So we're going to do this opposite. All right. And then I want that to go to about 25. We'll delete that. We'll extend these. And then we'll delete from 50 on. Extend this. And then we can just extend these. And then I don't know what's going on over here, but for simplicity's sake, let's delete from 100 on. And by that, I mean, I just go to as far. Again, it's the benefit of working by yourself. So, all right, cool. So we have our first flower. I don't want to do any more flowers until I know what my sloth is doing. I have a pretty darn good branch that I'm thinking of putting the sloth on. So I'm going to go into my library. I think it's in my scenes. Sloth, or not sloth, branch. And for this case, I don't expect the branch to interact with the flowers at all. So it doesn't matter if I put it above or below. So let's extend it. One thing I do want to put in here though is an awl. And I'm not a big fan of the camera. I think it is counterintuitive. So I have my own way of doing the camera, which is to put everything in an awl layer and then use the advanced animation tools to edit that. So we'll put them all in awl. So here's my branch. My branch is way too low. So I'm going to select it. I'm going to move it up. I kind of want it to go in the other direction. I want it high. I want it a little bit even so it's not down. I think that's good. I'm going to have my sloth hanging off. Okay. On to the sloth. So I do my rigging very differently than most people. My rigs tend to, I use the drawing layers and I edit and I use the advanced animation tools to do the edits on the layers. So for example, if I want this leaf to move, I would do it like that. So let's just say I'm going to put it there, move the leaves up there. If I press play, that's how they work. That's how I do it. It's not the way that ToonBoom says you should do it. I also have essentials, so I don't have the benefits of using bones and pegs. And so that's one of the reasons why. And this, for me, is just easier. It's cleaner. It's better. And I feel like I'm justifying myself way too much. So, I'm going to go in. I'm going to create my sloth. And I want him on top of the leaves because I want him hanging on. So I'm going to have a body. I want 4 legs. So we're going to go leg 1, leg 2, leg 3, leg 4. 2 of those are going to be behind the body and the other 2 are going to be in front. I want a head. I want a smile. I want eyes and I want a head awl. So one thing that's going to be really difficult for me in, I also need a sloth awl. I have a tendency to animate to rush my animations. So this is going to be really fun to try and animate a sloth who is not moving very fast. So I'm going to take all of these layers and I'm going to throw them into sloth awl. And what do I have going on here? I did something funky. That's an easy fix. We're just going to put that to 75. Looks like I somehow added a keyframe with my leaves all funky. Okay, so let's draw. I want my sloth to be here. I usually start with the body because for most animals, it's just a blob. My giraffe, just a blob. My elephant, just a blob. My fox, just a blob. It doesn't matter what animal. They're all mostly just blobs. And this isn't going to be very different. The biggest difference with the blob for the sloth is that his back, his spine is basically going to be the bottom part of the blob. So let's go in here. I'm going to find a palette. You know what? I hate these defaults. I almost always delete them. I never want to use them. I like my own pure kind of rough um, colors. So I think this is a pretty good color palette, especially since I'll be using a lot of browns with the sloth. So I have black as my back outline. I have the pencil tool selected. I have my Wacom tablet and my Wacom tablet pen. There's a link in the description if you want to get one of these yourself. I recommend that being the bare minimum that you buy. You buy ToonBoom Essentials and you buy a Wacom tablet. You can do so much with just that. After that, you can get a little expensive. One day I will get a nicer tablet. They can be thousands of dollars. This one's like 30. It's much easier. Okay. So back to drawing. So I'm going to draw this blob. So I'm going to have his head kind of up here. His back's going to be a little slanted. I'm going to curve his butt. And then we're going to go up a little bit. And I almost feel like this is a little long. So I'm going to put, I don't like how big that is. I feel like he's a little long, so I'm going to just cap it right there. All right, that's my sloth body. Now for legs, I'm going to draw one leg and I'm going to copy it a bunch. So this has got to be a really good leg. So we're going to do something like that. I'll give him some claws. I like my claws. There's my arm. At this point, I think I'm going to color this all in. You know what? Let's use a little bit of a lighter brown. Okay, there's my blob body, my leg arm, and then I want a dark one for his claws. All right, because I am selected on this leg, I know that if I do this, I'm just going to select the leg. So we're going to select that leg. I'm going to put it on this top one, which is going to be his bottom leg. And I am a little concerned it might be a little skinny. I might fatten it up just a little bit. All right. I like it. All right, let's put the skinny one over here and we're going to stagger it so you can see it. And I could even actually do something kind of interesting here and do that and see what that looks like. Although one thing I'm thinking of is it needs to be on the other side of the branch. That is an interesting conundrum to come across. So what I might do is for this back one, let me put the light on so I can just see the layer that I'm on. And I am going to take my eraser tool. I'm going to erase right there. This is not usually how I would go upon this. If the sloth was moving, I would probably put a mask somewhere in this layer here, in these layers. Probably about here. I would have a mask that just has the log in there. Because the sloth is not going to move much, he might move. I think I'm going to have him move this arm. The rest is not going to move. This is a much easier and quicker solution. This also is going to make it more difficult for me to use the sloth in the future, which I have to remember. It's not a big deal. I'm okay with that. It's a quick and easy fix. It's a copy and paste job. All right, let's take this leg. Which am I on? I'm on that layer. And do I want to do the same thing? Probably. So we'll do this. We're going to move it that way. I'm going to move it here. I'm going to take my eraser tool. This angle's a little bit harder, but that's okay. And then draw that line in. All right. Select and delete that. All right, let's see what it looks like. This is my headless sloth. I think I like my headless sloth. He's very cute. Okay, onto the head. All right, so the head's going to be a bit of an oval. And a little exaggeration is fine. Okay, I like it. And then in that oval, I'm going to draw another oval. All right, I'm going to draw places where his eyes are going to be. And you know what? This might be a little bit easier to draw like this so that I don't make mistakes like that. It's fine. His markings, we're going to draw in his little slothy nose. And then the mouth and the eyes are all going to be done on different layers. So let's color this in. I'm going to give him the same, I want to make sure that I have the same color for around the face. And then I'm going to give him, I think I want to go lighter. Let's do this for that. I'm going to go darker for his eyes. And then his nose, I'm going to pick this sort of black that I have. Okay. We're going to give him a cute little smile, a little slothy smile. He's so happy. And then let's draw in his eyes. So we're going to give him nice, big, slothy eyes. And I have a couple choices I can make here. I'm going to redraw this one. This one's a little funky. And I made this side a little small, which is why it's funky. Okay. So I have a few choices here. And I think is what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a pupil, a large pupil inside. So since I have black selected, paint the inside of these black. Feeling that's not closed all the way either. There is a way to do this with the paint tool too. So you can use the close gap instead of redrawing. I just get lazy. So you could do that. And it even tells you that there's a stroke, but it's not going to tell you where that stroke is. It's basically what that warning is. I've just gotten so in the habit of I was just drawing it and redrawing it. And if I did have a cleaner style, then I probably would. My style's not that clean, and I kind of like it not clean for many reasons. And then I want a white, and we're going to give him just a little highlight just to breathe some life into him. All right, that's my sloth. His head's a little small, if you ask me. So let's select everything on the head layer. Make it a little bit bigger. Now his head's a little too big. All right, I feel like that's good. All right, I like it. There's my sloth. So I'm going to do a few things before I start animating him. So I'm going to extend that. Again, that's F5. I'm also going to throw him into my library. As I mentioned before, I used to throw them in after the fact. And then you got to deal with all the changes that I make. And it's not at all what I usually would do. So I'm going to take this whole thing, throw it in there. I could call it sloth all. I'm just going to call it sloth. There's my sloth. I want to give him a watering can. I know that I have a watering can. There it is. Do I want this on his arm? Maybe. I might put that as, let me make sure that's the right one. Yeah. So where's my watering can? See, I already have it animated, so I got to delete all this. It's just one extra step if you put it in your library and it's already edited. All right, I'm going to extend it all the way to the beginning. So we're getting close. I'm going to have this watering can come down. So that's going to be the first thing. I'm going to have it come down slow, like a sloth. Ooh. I'm not really liking where it's hitting him. So I have a few options here. You know what? That's what I'm going to do. This leg just needs to go up there. And so it's on top of that one. All right. So as he's getting the watering can, it's dying. So now we're going to put some water on there. That water is going to be under the watering can. All right, so that flower is going to die. Okay, so now he's going to move his arm now that he's got the watering can. So I want to move the node here to right where his joint would be. So he's like this. If I really want to get crazy with this, I could have this part of his arm be on one layer, this part on another, and then he can do this. But right now he can just do this, which is fine. So this is where it's going to be hard because I want him to work really slow and I don't work slow. The funny thing is too, is that YouTube doesn't really like slow either. So, I mean, if you're going to watch something that's not getting to the point, you don't really want to watch it. Okay. So now let's draw the water. And I'm almost thinking the best way to do this is draw a cycle. So there's a few ways I can do this. I can do one big spray that's coming down. That would probably be the easiest. I could also just do drips and I can put them on different layers and then animate each of the drips. I'm thinking that this is going to be the easiest. So we're going to do something like that. And then I'm going to go to the next, which is period again, the next layer, and do something similar. You know what? Now that I'm thinking about this, I want the watering can, the water under the watering can. Oh, that now means that I got to move both these. Good thing I didn't do a ton of work. So I'm going to move that. Sometimes it's easier to move these and edit them if they're filled in. So sometimes I'll just do that just to make it easier. So now I'm going to draw some lines. And let's do it one more time. Probably could get away with just doing it twice. But variety is the spice of life, right? So we'll add a little bit more variety of how this works. I don't think they meant that about animations when they said that. Okay. Next thing, I'm going to fill this in with a blue. So I have my blue selected. I could do this a few ways. I can go through each of these and color them one by one using this tool. Or I can select this tool, go to tool properties and select apply to all frames. And then I want to find a spot that I know is enclosed in all three of these and select that. I do have some of these which I'm going to unselect that because I don't want to turn the lines blue. I just want to turn the fill in blue. I didn't even phase that because it's not closed. This one it got, but not up here. Okay. It didn't work as smoothly as I thought it would, but it was maybe a couple clicks less than I would have needed to do otherwise. My guess is it's up here. Let's use the light tool. Oh yeah, you could tell that's not closed. Much better. All right, next I'm going to select all 3 of these drawings. I'm going to right click, create cycle. I'm going to have this going for a while. So you got to think I've got 3 frames. If I do this 10 times, that's only 30 frames. That's just over a second. I definitely want more than that. I'm going to do it for 100 frames. That's 300 frames. I'm definitely not going to need it that much, but it's a lot easier to delete than to just keep copying and pasting or keep doing cycles. So I'm just going to do that for now. Now, let's go back to our flower. So it's going to hit the watering can. And this flower is going to hit a brand new cycle. So I'm selecting all of my flower cycles. I'm copying it and pasting it. So that's the cycle. So then I want the sloth to around there go to the next one. Just to make it easy, we're going to do that. He's going to move his arm. And actually, instead, well, so I don't have a flower there yet, so it's a little difficult to tell. Oh, and one other thing too is you know what? I think I need to edit this. One other thing I intended to do with this water too is edit it in the front end so that about here. So I basically put a keyframe here so that it stays exactly, it basically matches this one. Those are the same. So at this point though, I'm going to shrink it up. So it's going to look more like it's coming from the watering can. So watch. And at this point, I think we're ready to duplicate these flowers. So I'm going to I'm going to duplicate, and we decided we're going to do 3 instead of 4. So there is my 3. It's nice and happy at this point. So because I have different drawings here, if I was to move just this these drawings, these will not get affected. So I'm going to use my animation tool to actually edit these. So I'm going to move this guy. I'm going to use this tool to make sure I know where I'm going. And I'm going to prolong his journey by doing this. And I think I'm going to do it about 60. And we will see if that's right. And then I'm going to do this one the same thing. And instead of 60, we're going to go 90. So I've got every 30 frames. So that means that this sloth has to move every 30 frames, which is what I started doing. So you know what? I'm going to move both those about 10 frames down. And I can remove that keyframe because it really is just a placeholder. All right, let's check this out. I'm liking it. Okay, the water can needs to go in a slightly different place. So we can move his arm just a little bit. The can just a little bit. The liquid just a little bit. And then he's going to make, and then from there, maybe he'll pause for a second, but then by 20, he needs to get rolling. So we'll move his arm that way. We'll move the watering can that way. He's really not doing he's really extending himself. It's okay. And that water is kind of going at a funky angle.